Hi, I am so glad that you're joining me today. I have a stand up desk and I wanted to try it out, and I need to make sure that I'm on the right things that I need to be on. Okay, perfect. And I thought I would try recording standing up. I spend a lot of hours in here creating content and talking to people and watching videos on learning new things that I need to know for my business. And so I decided that sometimes I need to stand up. So I'm going to try different things that maybe will help me be a little bit healthier or get a little bit more movement in my life. So thank you for joining me for the Teen Anxiety Maze. And today we are finishing up the book Anxious Kids, Anxious Parents. And if this is your first time listening to me or watching me, you will want to go back. Probably the last 8 solo episodes have been about this book, and I tried to do them in order, though I know people don't listen to podcasts many times or YouTube channels in order. But I did the pieces to this managing your anxiety in those solo episodes. And today is sort of the culmination of all of that. And I just wanted you to have this information too, because the stuff that I'm learning in this book is amazing and it's helping me in my business. But I do love that a lot of the stuff that it's been talking about, I was already doing, but it just really helped me to come up with some new ideas about things to do because I'm always wanting to improve what I do with my clients. So, what I want you to know about today is that we're going to take all those pieces and we're going to put them together. And here's what we need to do. We're going to be creating a plan, and we're going to be taking action on that plan to manage anxiety. So we're going to be kind of going back and talking about those puzzle pieces, those 7 puzzle pieces, and how we can put this all together in one plan. So remember, we had the one episode where it was like expect to worry. So don't be surprised if you get worried about creating a plan to manage your anxiety, because our brain's going to tell us that it's too much, it's too overwhelming, there's nothing that we can do. And making sure that my door was closed. And I want you to just expect that your brain's going to tell you this stuff, that worry is going to come up about creating this plan, and that's okay. Because one of the other puzzle pieces is we're going to embrace feeling uncomfortable and we're going to go ahead anyway. And so you're going to feel probably a little uncomfortable about making a plan to manage your anxiety, and you're just going to go forward and do it. If you have been following along in these solo episodes, then you have a lot of these pieces, and hopefully you were kind of practicing them and thinking about them along the way. And so you really have everything that you need to be able to manage your anxiety, but you just didn't really know. I mean, you were using those techniques, I'm sure, but this kind of just puts everything together. So you have been talking about expecting worry, role modeling how you deal with worry so that your child can see how they should be talking to their worry and thinking about their worry. And we talked about moving forward even when we feel uncomfortable. And we talked about breathing and breathing techniques that help us manage our anxiety. And we just want our children to feel like they have control over their anxiety, like we're not managing it for them. They're managing their own anxiety. And we want them to think, I can handle whatever happens. I will be fine even if the plan gets messed up, or I'll be fine even if I fail, because we just get up and we do it again and we just keep trying. So this is for your child. This process is for your child to own, or if you're working on your own anxiety, this process is for you to own. Someone else can't do it for you. But certainly when we are a parent helping our child, we can help support them, and we want to be there to talk them through and give them ideas. We just don't want to do it for them. And when they're uncomfortable and they cry and they're worried, we don't let them not do the plan because they're upset about it. We talk them through it so that they can still move forward even when they feel uncomfortable. They are allowed to go slow if they need to, but they're not allowed to not do the plan at all. So you're going to come up with this plan together. You're going to sit down, and both people are going to, or all the people, whoever many people are involved in the plan, everyone's going to agree with it. And then they will be carrying it out. And you can make the steps as small as you would like to. They can, let you know what is a small step that they're capable of doing, but they have to be moving forward in some way. So, the first step that you need to take to create this plan is to review each of the puzzle pieces. So, if you've read the book, if you have the book, go back to the first puzzle piece, talk about each one, and you're going to use an index card. And I like the bigger ones. I don't know what size they are. I didn't measure, not the little tiny ones. So you can use those if you want to, but I like the bigger index cards. And you write on the one side just what that puzzle piece is called. And then on the, as even on the front or on the back, as you talk about each puzzle piece and the idea behind each of the pieces, then let them come up with things that will help remind them about that piece. Or, like, if it's the breathe puzzle piece, then remember we had the calming breath and then we had the counting breath. And maybe there's something about that that helps them remember how to do it. And they could draw on it. They can just write out the steps if they want to, or write out a mantra that they want to say to themselves. And so for each of the puzzle pieces, you're going to create a index card that reminds you about that step and what happens during that step, and let them be really involved in creating the visuals or writing down what they remember about it, and have a discussion about it so that when they see those cards, they know what they're supposed to do on that step. Even talk about, as if you've been practicing some of these steps along the way, talk about some successes you've seen them have with that step. I really liked how you used that breathing last week when you had to go to the dentist. Or one day when you didn't want to go to school, I liked how you went ahead and went to school even though you were uncomfortable. And just talk about what those successes are and help them see that they've been having successes in some of these pieces. Maybe not all of them, and that's okay. But where have they been having success, and talk about that. And maybe where you're having success if you're working on your own anxiety. And then you just keep these cards around in a place where your family has access to them and they can look at them whenever they need to. And maybe you're going to need to have several sets. Maybe they need to have a set of these cards at school. Maybe they need to have a set in their backpack. Maybe you need some in your car or somewhere, anywhere where they're going to be able to walk through the steps and remind themselves of what the steps are. Then you're going to create an imaginary scenario about worry that isn't really related to anything like if they're being bullied, don't make the imaginary scenario about bullying, because we want it to be something that their emotions are kind of removed out of for the first practice, because emotions can really muddy how we do some of the steps, or like really make them so much harder. And we want them to practice with pretty easy skill in the first round of practicing a plan. So you're going to take those index cards and you're going to think about this imaginary worry scenario, and it can be with unicorns and dwarves, and or just anything that seems like not, I mean, it can be a fictional fantasy story if that's the kind of thing that they like to talk about, but just come up with any kind of pretend fiction scenario that they can walk through the steps with. And you take those index cards and you just walk through how that character would do that scenario using the steps and the puzzle pieces. So how would they go through and just talk about each one and how there would sort of be a plan involved, but you're just making it up and you're talking about it and how would they do this part? How would they do this part through all of the 7 puzzle pieces? And you can prompt with some questions like, how can the main character step out in courage? How is worry trying to control them in this situation? What can the hero, what can the title character, what can they do about that worry? And how can they can take control over the worry and not let the worry control them? And then after you've gone through, and maybe you even draw out pictures about how the story went or how whatever works for your child. Every child is different. Some like the art part of it, some of them would want to write it. Maybe you could record it. There's like a lot of different things that you could do through these steps. And then you're going to repeat that process, but you're going to use a past experience that they had that they have already resolved. And so that brings it a little bit more personal, but it's something that they're not worried about anymore. So maybe in the book, they mentioned that a girl, when she was younger, she made her mom ride in the back seat with her because she was afraid to ride in the back seat by herself. And now that she was older, she thought how silly it was that she ever was afraid to ride in the back seat. And so maybe you could use the back seat, back before when you used to be scared about this, but you're not scared about it anymore, and then go through the pieces about how did they go through those pieces. And if they didn't use one of the pieces because we didn't know this process back when we had those worries, how could that piece have been used? Or what looks like that piece now that we look back on it and see that maybe, how did you go forward when you were uncomfortable? When you first had to ride in the back seat, you probably felt scared and your brain probably told you something bad would happen, but then it didn't. And then now you don't worry about that anymore and you don't think about it anymore. Then we're going to create a plan and take action on something that's happening right now. So, something they're still worried about, something they're still not doing that they want to do, that we can then go through those pieces and talk about how can we create a plan using those puzzle pieces to fix this problem now. And maybe they're not going to school every day. Maybe they want to go to some activity, but they're afraid to go to the activity. Or maybe there's some other distressing thing. Maybe they want to have more friends, but they're always too scared to talk to people or to go to events that kids have invited them to. Whatever it is that they're like distressed about or worried about that they want to fix, then you go through those pieces about that particular event. As you're going through those pieces, think about what would be a goal for each of those pieces. And maybe there's multiple steps to that goal. Maybe there's just one step to that goal. But start writing down what would the goals be in the plan and in the process. What are some of the smaller steps they could take, because they need to have something that they can really gauge how they're doing and seeing progress in it, even if it's not the end thing that they ultimately want, but they need to see that they are making progress in the smaller steps to get to that. And you can just remind your child that since you want this goal, then you have to be willing to do something less desirable to get it. So if I want to have more friends, I have to be uncomfortable when I go up to new people and talk to them. If I want to drive a car, I need to be nervous when I take the driver's test in order to get my driver's license. If I want a romantic partner, I have to be willing to hear the word no when I ask someone on a date, or when I don't know if they probably don't call it a date, but if they want to talk to someone and maybe go to homecoming or go somewhere with them, they might have to hear the word no from some people before they find someone that they would go to the dance with or go to the movies with. And then just as a family, you would decide what are some of the steps or goals that you're going to work on first. And really, it doesn't matter where you start. You just have to start and you just have to go forward. So you might pick the easiest one first. You might pick the hardest one first. You might pick the one that's going to make the biggest impact if you can, break that barrier. So whatever it is, you get to decide as a family what is done first, but you just remember that there's no stopping or like deciding not to do it. Like once you decide this is the plan, there is always forward movement because that is what is going to push that uncomfortableness. And once they see that, and their brain sees that these are not life threatening things that they're trying to do, that alarm system will get quieter and they will feel more comfortable. Now, maybe they're never going to feel 100% comfortable, and that's okay. They don't have to feel 100% comfortable, but it will feel better. It will feel less heavy. And hopefully, we hope that they get to the point where they don't even think about it anymore. But we don't know that part for sure. We just know that they are going to feel better as they practice these things. So there was an example in the book, Christy, and in the book, she was too afraid to fall asleep at night without a parent in her room. And it was becoming a big fight. Her parents didn't want their evenings ruined by having to lay and sleep in their daughter's room while she's trying to go to sleep. And she really didn't want them to either, because if she has to have her parent go to sleep by her, then that ruins a lot of things that she probably wants to do, like go to sleepovers or have friends over or whatever, because it would be embarrassing to have your parent in your room when you're trying to do these other things. And so in the story or in the book, they outlined each puzzle piece and they weren't in order, but I think that that's a good idea because you're going to go through the pieces as you see fit for your situation. You do need to do all the pieces, but they don't have to be in the order that they were in the book. And so the first piece that they talked about is know what you want. So they asked Christy, what do you want? And she said, well, I want the evenings to go smoother. I don't want to fight with my parents. I don't want them to be mad at me because I need somebody there. And I don't want them to be there, but I'm just so scared. And she wanted to be able to read a chapter book and go to sleep like her friends do. She didn't want to have her parent there. So, to bridge back to successes, which was the last solo episode before this one. So, she thought about, because she loved reading, and she thought about, when I was little, I didn't know how to read. And then I learned how to read. And, reading seemed hard when I was learning, but now it seems so easy. And then she thought back to the time when she needed her mom to ride in the back seat with her because she was too scared. And now she thinks, oh, that's nothing. I don't even care about that anymore. So she was thinking about, I have overcome some things and I will be able to overcome this as well. And then she expected to worry. And she just told herself, I know worry's going to show up. Worry might even start bothering me at dinner time because it's getting closer to bedtime and I'm worried about being in my room by myself. This is nothing new. I've been worried at nighttime forever. And this is just what worry does. This is just what my brain does. It tells me that I should be worried about sleeping in my room by myself. And then talking to the worry. So they role modeled and practiced her talking to her worry. And she came up with, I will tell worry that I am not going to follow its orders anymore. I will tell worry that even though I am scared, I'm going to handle staying in my room by myself. And I'm not going to listen to the scary stuff that it tells me. And then to take action on her plan, she wrote on an index card, but you can do it however. She wrote what she would tell worry, because sometimes when we get really upset, we forget. Remember that amnesia that we get sometimes when we're worried? And she knew that she might forget what she wanted to talk to worry about or how she wanted to handle it. So she wrote out what she would say to worry on an index card and put it under her pillow. So if she did get too upset and didn't know what to talk to worry about, she got that card out. And she decided that she bought a really exciting new chapter book that she had been wanting to read so that she would have some excitement about, I really want to read this book. And this is one of the ways that I'm going to distract myself kind of from the worry so I can go to sleep. And she and her mom decided that even if she called out to her mom was not going to come. So she just had to be ready for all of that and knew that she was going to go forward, even though she was uncomfortable. And she told herself, I'm going to have to feel scared and nervous at night in order to get over this. And that's okay. I am willing to be scared and nervous at night until I am able to manage this. And she talked to herself about breathing, and breathing, is one of the puzzle pieces too. I know some breath ideas. I know some things I'm going to do with my breathing. And she knew the tools and how to breathe and doing the counting breath and the calming breath. And she just told herself, I'm rewiring my brain with the breathing and with talking to worry. And that's going to help me stay focused on my plan. And then think about rewards. How are you going to reward yourself with your anxiety? How are you going to reward? How is your child going to be rewarded? And these should not be things like gifts and spending a lot of money. These should, and now it could be spending some money on activities, the things that you do as a family together. Like if you, for Christy, if you're able to go to bed, go to sleep after after 5 times of being able to go to sleep on your own without a parent, we're going to go to the miniature golf thing, or we're going to have a family game night, or we're going to watch your favorite movie, or, there's just so many things that you could come up with. And we shouldn't punish if they don't make it. Like, don't say if for 5 nights in a row you do this, then we're going to do this, because there might be a hiccup in there. And then it makes them feel like, oh, well, now I've got to start over with 5 more nights. Just make it after 5 times, and maybe those 5 times take a month. Maybe they are literally 5 days. Who knows? But there's no punishment for not doing something. It's just this, when this happens and you guys decide what those goals are, then we're going to do this fun activity, or we're going to have a certain special time, or maybe she gets to eat out with one of her parents, or maybe she gets to invite a friend over for supper. Who knows? All the things that would be fun for your particular child. So now that you have all the pieces and the plan on how to put this managing anxiety together, what is next for your family? Have you dreamed about what it's going to be like when your family is managing anxiety? I hope you are, because I always feel like those dreams of what something's going to be like when you actually have it is maybe even more of the fun than actually getting it. I've been thinking about my car is 10 years old. It has almost 200,000 miles on it. And my very first reward to myself when I make a certain amount of money is that I'm going to get a different car. And I probably won't get a new car because I really don't think it's important to have a brand new car, but I'm going to have a newer car and it'll be fun. And I just keep like looking at pictures of cars. What kind of car do I want to get? I know it's going to be red. And, I look at pictures of the interiors of cars and the outside of cars, and it's so much fun to imagine and pretend like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to be driving that car. And whenever we have those really strong visualizations and we're really like, that's the end goal and we can see it and we're going towards it, it just makes it so much more fun. So, imagine what your life's going to be like when everyone's managing their anxiety and everyone's getting along. Why not? Most of the time, any of our dreams are just made up stuff anyway. So why wouldn't we make up stuff that's fun and make up stuff that we are excited about? And I know that just reading this book and just listening to these podcast episodes or watching the YouTube channel might not be enough. And a lot of times it isn't enough. You need a guide, a mentor, somebody to just talk it out with, somebody to get more help with. And I want to be that person for your child. So if you're like, well, this is all great, but I need help, I need somebody to help me with this, then I would love to be that person. So somewhere on my social media, on my website, in the notes of the YouTube channel, there's going to be ways to contact me. And I would love for you, even if you just email me some questions, I will. I read all that stuff. I'm still a solopreneur. I still do everything on my own. And so I would love to talk with you about anything that's going on. And if you want to sit down and have an anxiety audit where we actually talk about your specific situation and come up with some kind of a plan right on that first call that you can take and see what you can do with, I would love to do that too. So I hope you have an amazing rest of the week, and I will talk to you next week.